Hey everyone, this is Mike, and today I want to talk a little bit about tank and healer anxiety. The reason why I want to talk about it today is because I ended up joining a group for E4 Savage as White Mage, ended up clearing it as well, pretty happy about it. But it's something that I was quite anxious about and a little bit scared of, to be honest. So there's a little bit of backstory. So I started playing back in Heavensward as a melee DPS, a ninja. So the switch from a melee DPS towards a tank was relatively easy, especially now looking at Shadowbringers, because tanks are pretty much melee DPS with some defensive actions. But when it comes to healing, I've always been a little bit scared, I guess you could say. I have healed Savage before. I've done some Sigma Scape with a friend of mine, or like with my static back then, helping a friend of ours through it. But other than that, I haven't really done any high level healing, except maybe like Sari or something like that with a friend of mine as well back then. But when it comes to Shadowbringers, I haven't really healed any content. I've tried healing E4 Savage before on Scholar, but those groups never either got very far or they disbanded after like 2 pulls of like having wipes. So this was really the first group that I joined where we got far and I got some extra experience on it. Now, the main reason why a lot of people are a bit anxious to play a tank or a healer is because they feel like they have an increased responsibility towards the group. When you have melee DPSs, it's just do mechanics and you're good. When it comes to tanking, you need to know like your defensive rotation, and then when it comes to healing, you need to keep the party alive. So it feels like it's your responsibility completely to keep the party alive, and that's actually not the case. So what you'll see towards the end of this video as well, when we get into phase 3 of Titan, is that all of a sudden, instead of me just DPSing a lot, me and the other healer are healing like crazy. And that is because the mitigation of our group was not handled correctly. Now, mitigation is something that everybody has access to. Every role has it, except maybe melee DPS, they have it a little bit less. Although Feint can be really useful on a merry-go-round. But for the most part, everybody in your group has some form of mitigation. You have Reprisal, Divine Veil, Dark Missionary, Passage of Arms, Feint, Adel, and then Troubadour and its other forms. So there's a lot of mitigation that people have in your group that can be used to make the healer's job easier. And it's not just to make the job easier, it is actually meant to be that way, because without of these, you wouldn't be able to clear sometimes, especially in like the first few weeks. You need these kinds of mitigations or you just can't heal through the damage as it's too much. And you'll see that here as well, where I'm just totally not expecting to take as much damage from certain mechanics than we did, because I'm expecting the mitigation to be there. Because I've seen from groups that I've played with prior, where I'm playing a tank or a DPS, where the utility is being used, and then the healers barely have to do anything, whereas here, a lot of the mitigation was used at the same time, so overlapping each other, and thus cancelling out each other, or sometimes just not used at all. So that's why the healing check in that final phase was incredibly hard, well, a lot harder than it was supposed to be. So yeah, that's the first thing. It's not only your job. Everybody else needs to help you out as well, as it is part of their job as well. Now, some things that you can do to get kind of into it, if you're somebody, for example, that is new to healing or to tanking, and you say, you know what, I want to try out tanking, I want to try out healing, but I'm not super confident on it. For example, like say you've done it a lot of times before in dungeons, but dungeons are relatively easy and also play very different towards something like a Savage Encounter or an Extreme Primal. So my best advice would be to get a friend. Now, just having a friend that plays a tank or plays a healer or plays both could be very useful to helping you out. So for example, I have a friend of mine, Rosen, who is a main healer. I guess I'm a main tank at this point. So we often end up playing together with each other, and back in Stormblood I ended up healing with him every now and then in Extreme Primals. Now when it comes to Shadowbringers, I sometimes tank with him in Extreme Primals or even in Savage, like for the memes and stuff like that. And it's really useful to be able to play with somebody that knows what they're doing, because they can help you out quite a bit. When it comes to tanking, for example, I can say, oh, pull the boss like this, or rotate it like there. You can use these cooldowns or something, or for example, pop your Divine Veil at this time so that the healer can have it up for X amount of mechanic. And then when it comes to healing, I can be like, oh, do you want me to indom here, or do you have something? And then save it for the next mechanic, or what do you want me to do for this, or something like that. And then we can kind of bounce back and forth in between each other, and then we can kind of help each other out that way, as it is something that makes you feel a lot more comfortable than as you're playing with somebody that you can't talk to. Like, especially with a healer, I think this is true, because healer has a lot of optimization that can be done in between you and your co-healer, because it is like a two-person job, I guess you could say. So having somebody to talk to, not just to be able to talk to them, but you also like bounce off ideas and such of what you should do for certain mechanics, can be really useful. And then also, of course, just having somebody else that can kind of help you out in certain situations as well. Healer is a role that can be solo healed in some of the fights, especially when you're looking at extreme primals. So when you're not as confident, you can have somebody else just like kind of carry you through the fight to get you more confident on the role, and then eventually, as you get more confident, you can be like, oh, you can stop healing here and I'll take care of this part or stuff like that. Of course, you are just going to need to do it, as Shia LaBeouf says, just do it, because otherwise you're not going to get there either. And that's what I decided to do today. I was just like, okay, there are no tank spots free in any of the party finders, as there was only like 2 party finders up or something, so I said, fuck it, I'm going healer today. It was really exciting, it was really stressful, but when we did finally get the clear, it was really satisfying, I guess you could say. And that's kind of what prompted me to make this video, so that maybe some other people that would be interested in trying it out, that are a little bit scared to do so, could maybe give it a try as well. Now, what I would advise is when you play healer, of course, for the first time, go into a learning party or something like that, or a kill party, because, of course, like this wasn't my first time in E4 Savage. I had tried it before on Scholar. We ended up getting to like the first phase 3, like the first mechanic of phase 3, and then ended up wiping and disbanding. So I kind of knew what I was doing, because this was a weekly clear party. This was supposed to be like a clear in like the first few pulls. But other than that, like, just get into a learning party, get into a kill party, practice in a dungeon, then go on to your extreme primals, and then go on to savage raids or something like that, if you're really not confident on your ability. And of course, as a healer or as a tank, well, as a tank not as much anymore, because tank stance is gone, the way it used to be before, but on a healer especially, you can just play it safe. There are going to be a lot of times in this gameplay that you're going to see where me and both my co-healer are healing way more than is necessary, but it's just playing it safe. And then if you can always play with the same person, of course, you can optimize your healing a bit more, but that's always one thing that you can do as a healer. You can just play it safe and heal too much. It's better to heal too much and have everybody live, and then eventually hit and rage maybe, if your DPS aren't really doing as much as they're supposed to do, than if you're just greeting too much DPS and then dying because you didn't heal enough. So that's another thing that you can do, of course, is just babysit the group. Because if you do that, you're pretty much never gonna die, unless you, of course, run into some situations where there is too much mitigation missing and it just hurts too much. So yeah, I guess that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I know that some people have a bit of trouble getting into healing and tanking, because they're a bit scared of it, but it is something that I think once you do it a couple times, it's actually not as bad as it looks like. And especially now, after today, after I did this now, I feel a lot more confident going into parties as well, and just being like, okay, this actually isn't too bad, and it'll all just kind of work out in the end. So I guess that's all I kind of wanted to say today. I hope it helped a little bit. If there's some more questions you want to ask me, or if you have your own advice as well for some people that want to get into it, feel free to leave them down in the comments. We also have a Discord server that is completely dead, so I'd like some people to go join that as well, so it doesn't feel like just an empty server sitting there. But yeah, I guess that's all I kind of wanted to say today. I hope you learned something for it, I hope it was useful, and I'll see you in the next one.